Whoopsie. I realized a problem. After I finished up there, I decided to go ahead and take the LED out of here. I'll take that off real quick. I desoldered it, and I wanted to double check something before. Ultimately, what I'm getting at is I've been saying it's common positive. It's actually common negative. And this one that was in there was a common positive. That was the issue. This here is a common negative I happen to have. It must be that the rest of what I have in stock are all common positive or something like that, but I don't need to order them if I've got one that will work. So if this is a common negative and this side of the battery is negative and the big side is positive, then if I hook it up this way, I should get a color. I get red. The other thing to note is that somehow I was using on the circuit board here, let me see if I can point it out. There is a flat side right next to where it says D1. 3 pins away from that is the common. I think I may have had it the other way around. So in theory, if I'm doing this right, and I'm not going to solder it in just yet, I'm going to go ahead and stick this in. I cleared the holes so I didn't have to rebuild a whole new one with more resistors and all the rest of that. These are a little bit tricky to get in, but I know it'll go in because the other one was in there just a minute ago. Oops. The wrong glasses on, making it hard to see. So let's get this in. Or just skip forward. I'll be back in a moment when I have it in. Alright, well that was a little tricky, so I just jumped forward for it. Now let me put this other piece on real quick. And if I do this right, yep, gotta have that side up. It should be facing this way. Now I'm not soldering anything in, so it may be a little bit flaky. But I want to test it out before I commit it to being soldered. And then for this, I'm also going to need the keyboard, which we have right here. And we're going to need some power. Let me steal that from something else real quick. We'll put the power in. If this all works, I'll be a happy camper and I can solder it together. Oops. Oh, that's going to be an issue. Alright, I'm going to bend all these pins and make sure they're not touching each other. And of course I bent them that way, didn't I? Should have bent them the other way, and I'll explain that in a moment. Alright. Don't need the pins touching each other. And when I bend them, I want them all to be pointing that way. That's why I had to switch it over. Okay. That should be okay, that they're not touching each other. And I should be able to plug this in. And we should get different colors. Whew! That was the problem. So I put a common positive in where the common negative should have been. And so ultimately, if you're going to build this, and I probably need to put an update on the video where I built it, that it should be common negative. But let me show you one more thing, just to sort of cement the explanation here. Take that apart. I will solder it together later, and make use of it as I put away the power cord and I bring out my diagram, which was not incorrect, interestingly. So it turns out what happens is on the keyboard itself, I've got the positive coming in and going through the switches. So the signals that are coming through the header, actually let me get the keyboard again. So we've got a positive and a negative right up at the top here of the header. And then all the rest of these pins are just signals coming from the individual switches. Those signals that are coming through are basically connecting to positive. So the positive is going into the LED, but it's going in on a color pin. So with a 4-pin LED, you've got a red pin, a power pin, a green pin, and a blue pin. So what's happening is positives coming to the red and then ultimately coming back out through ground, and all of these grounds are connected together in the LED. So that's why it's a common negative, a common ground, or a common cathode LED. So that's what happened. That's what went wrong. Now I've figured it out. Now I can finish fixing it, and I can add it to the system here, so I'll have another test module. Thanks for hanging in there. I'm glad I figured it out. Next video, I think we'll be experimenting with sound. I also have another project coming up that will be interspersed with this because it takes time to order up the circuit boards. Once I figure out the circuit, I got to order up the circuit boards and then assemble and test it out that way. Those are the prototypes. I've got another project that I'm working on which actually involves this light bulb. I've got another revision of this coming, plus it allows me to test another idea that will involve the keyboard. So there is a little bit of crossover, but stay tuned if you want to see me basically build a light bulb that can either be battery powered or direct powered, and I'll explain all of that when that video comes out. But the next one I think is just going to be the first sounds coming out of this keyboard. Thank you so much for watching.